Hey, I'm Srini, host and founder of the Unmistakable Creative Podcast and the creator of Maximize Your Output with Mem. And in this video, I'm going to talk to you about why it's so important to format your notes properly and how to do it if you want to be able to find and use them in the future. And if you haven't checked it out, be sure to check out our free course on how to take smart notes. I'll be sure to include a link in the description below. Now, let's get to the video. So I wanted to record this tutorial because I kept seeing a pattern with a lot of people that I've talked to. They would take notes, but then they couldn't find and use that note. Or they would create smart notes, they would read the smart notes book, and they would create all these literature notes, but they couldn't figure out how to make it generate new ideas and new permanent notes and connect those ideas together for output. And the big thing that matters here is formatting of your notes. And I want to go through 3 different examples of how this works. So the first example I want to go to is a note without a title. Now, in this case, what I want you to assume is that this note doesn't have a title. Now, this is fine. There's nothing wrong with the content in of itself when you create a note that doesn't have a title. The problem is when you have a note that doesn't have a title, it becomes harder to find that note, or you have to drill down into it. It's harder to remember what it was about without doing that. But more than anything else, when this note doesn't have a title, you can't really use it in something else or link it to another note, which you'll see how important that becomes when we get to the section on link notes where you embed sentences. And you'll see why that is important when we get to the example where you are using bidirectional links and embedding them into sentences in other notes. Now, let's go to another example here, which is just a list of notes. Let's go to another example here, which is just, take this from the top. Now, let's go to another example here, which is just a note with a list of bidirectional links. So I just wrote up this note really quickly and called it, PAIR as a system for organizing information. And this is typically what a lot of people do when they first start using the Zettelkasten method. And this is typically what a lot of people do when they first start using the Zettelkasten method. So you can see here, they'll write a literature note, and then they'll just put together a list of related notes, add a tag, and then add the source. Now, in and of itself, this isn't bad, but it's not also the ideal way to do this when you're taking smart notes, because where smart notes become really powerful is when you start to create smart notes with links embedded inside of the sentences and other notes. So let me show you an example here. And coincidentally, this just happens to be a note about giving every note that you capture a title. So you can see here that I've been able to embed 3 or 4 different links into the sentences. So what you want to do when you're using bidirectional links and you want to take smart notes and to truly make connections between your ideas is try to complete the sentence in one note with the title of another note. And that's what we mean by embedding links. So just to go over the key takeaways from this video, first, give every single note you capture a title, because that's going to make it 1, easier to find, 2, easier to use, and 3, easier to connect to other notes. 3, when you're writing notes, try to embed the links in sentences. And by that, like I said, what I mean is try to complete a sentence in one note with the title of another note. And what you'll then start to find is that the Zettelkasten becomes much more generative, and you will start to see that it becomes much more effortless to make connections between your ideas, and it becomes much more valuable when you make connections that way, as opposed to just creating a list of links or just having a note without a title. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below.